Hello, it's Justin, and today I'm going to talk about how you can memorize anything easily and quickly using the mind palace technique, also known as the method of Loci. So with modern technology, we tend to not use the art of memorization often because we can record things on our phones and write notes down, and we always have our phones handy to keep notes and keep track of things, but memorizing things still has a lot of uses, and it can definitely help you in a lot of different situations. For example, if you want to give a speech or a presentation, if you're able to memorize things, then you won't have to look down on your notes and look up at your PowerPoint, and that comes off as much more professional. Likewise, memorizing things can save you time. You can think on the spot and memorize things on the spot, and you'll just appear more professional when you're presenting to people or even talking to people, because you are able to recall things off the top of your head, which can be very useful, especially in impromptu situations. So I'm going to talk about the way I use to memorize things and the technique I use, which is also very popular a lot with people who compete in memorization contests, and also people who give speeches and presentations and want to appear professional by not looking too often at their notes or their PowerPoint visuals. So the mind palace technique, also known as the memory palace technique, also known as the method of Loci, was developed in ancient Greece by Simonides of Crete. And the way he discovered it, or the way he invented it, was actually by accident. He was actually at a dinner party in a big building, and he went out to meet with two people who said they wanted to talk to him. And lucky for him, when he went out, that was when the building collapsed, and unfortunately a lot of people died in that building, and people weren't able to recognize who was who when they were trying to identify the remains. However, Simonides of Crete was able to recognize who was who, even though he couldn't tell based on their bodies, but he could tell because he memorized where everyone was sitting. And the reason why he was able to memorize it without even trying to is because the human brain is a lot more adept at memorizing things visually than non-visually. So it became a very popular technique in ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and even when it was discovered, it became rediscovered in the Renaissance. It became very popular again. And it was especially popular with politicians and public speakers and orators, because when they needed to give really long speeches back in those days, they don't have a PowerPoint, and it doesn't come off as professional if you had to look at your notes. People want to come off as more genuine, and they want to come off as if they were speaking from their heart and on the spot. So they use this technique to memorize what they wanted to memorize, or the sequence of their speech. So it's based on the principle that humans are better at memorizing visual memories than any other memory. And how it works is that you create a mind palace or a memory palace in your brain. And what that means is you have a certain location in your brain, or a certain location that you know of, that you know very well, and you know where everything is. Or let's say you have your house, and you probably know what your house looks like and what's in your house, which doorways are where, which hallways are where, and that is your memory palace. So when you're trying to memorize things, you visualize each thing you try to memorize and put them in different places in your memory palace or your mind palace. And if you are using your house as your mind palace, you can visualize different things and put one thing near the entrance of your house, one thing in your room, one thing in between, and you can memorize things in this way, because if you visualize what you're trying to memorize, it's a lot easier to memorize it. And when you put it in different places in your house, then you could create a certain order where you can memorize things in order, which can be very useful. So it's best to use a location like your house because you know it very well, but you don't have to use your house. Any location you know very well can be of use. So to give you a short example, if you need to buy lettuce, tomatoes, beef, and chicken in your grocery list, you could think of your house. That's your memory palace, just as an example. Let's put some lettuce leaves on the doorway to visualize the lettuce. Put the tomatoes in your shoe rack, and that way you can visualize the tomatoes. And you could put the beef in the hallway leading up to your room, and instead of visualizing actual beef, maybe visualize a cow, because that's a lot easier to visualize. And you can visualize a chicken in your room. So you are able to memorize lettuce, tomato, beef, chicken. And because you are visualize everything and putting it in certain places in your house, you not only memorize everything you need to buy on your grocery list, but you can memorize in what order. With groceries, you don't need to memorize it in a certain order, but let's say you want to give a speech. That requires a memorization in a certain order. So I'm going to walk around and show you an example of how to do this. Okay, so the example I'm going to use is the video I am doing right now. So the first thing I talked about is why memorization is useful, and a good visualization of this is a brain. So let's walk around and see where we can place our brain. Let's place our brain on this bridge.
Sink down and emotions feel like I never did before. Life shows him unspoken reels of the movie I ignored. Blue skies on a broken sea and I'm stuck up.
So the second thing I talked about in the video was the origins of the mind palace technique, and that was developed in ancient Greece. So I think a good visualization of that would be a Greek building. So let's see where we can place that. Oh, it's an empty bench. Let's put a Greek building on top of that.
On the shore, I never thought you could see me, but you did. All I know is we're here, that they took us somewhere. So what they say we're calling, falling out of line. They don't know the two of us are colorblind, yeah.
And the third thing I talked about was why the mind palace technique works so well. And that's because we as human beings memorize things visually much better than we memorize things in other ways. So let's visualize this by having a movie screen to encapsulate the fact that we are better at memorizing visual memories. That log looks like a comfortable place to watch a movie. So let's put a movie screen right in front of that.
All I know is we're here, that they took us somewhere. So what they say we're calling, falling out of line. They don't know the two of us are colorblind. All I know is we're here, that they took us somewhere. So what they say we're calling, falling out of line. They don't know the two of us are colorblind, yeah. Make it grayscale with my black and white scale, singing since they're the same. and they kept painting rainbows. I'm colorblind. It's black.
So the last thing I talked about was how to create your own mind palace, and I use the example of your own house because that place you probably know very well. So I'm going to find a place where we can place a house because that visualizes the last idea of my video. This is a very nice lake. We could cut down some trees over there and build a house. So first we have the brain on the bridge, representing the importance of memorization and introducing the memorization technique of the mind palace, and that is also known as the method of Loci.
I can't wait, it seems it will remain. And you've been colorblind for all your life, scared to even say so.
Second, we have the Greek building on the bench, which represents ancient Greece, which is where the mind palace technique was invented.
We're colorblind, it's black and white, it seems it will remain so. So what they say we're called falling out of line. They don't know the two of us are colorblind, yeah.
Third, we put a movie screen in front of this comfortable log over here, and that movie screen represents visualization, and it shows how we as human beings are better at memorizing visual memories than most other types of memories, and that's why the visualization process of the mind palace technique works so well.
All I know is we're here, that they took us somewhere. So what they say we're called falling out of line. They don't know the two of us are colorblind. All I know is we're here, that they took us somewhere. So what they say we're called falling out of line. They don't know the two of us are colorblind, yeah.
And last but not least, we have the house we put across the lake, and that represents the mind palace we created with you guys, because the house is where most of you know very well and know all the locations very well. So it's a good place to create your first mind palace and put stuff to memorize things. That's it, guys. That's how you create a mind palace to memorize things and memorize things in order. So if you ever need to memorize things for a speech or a presentation and you want to look more professional and not look at your notes and PowerPoint the whole time, then that's a good technique to use. Or if you just want to save time or memorize things on the spot and think on the spot, and also when you're interacting with people you can recall things on the spot, that's also a cool result of being able to memorize a lot of things. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell notifications so you get notified when new videos come out. Also, follow me on Instagram where you can DM me, and follow me on Medium where I write about the same topics I talk about on YouTube. The links for my Instagram and my Medium are in the description, so check that out, and I'll see you next time.